He said it once. He did not raise his voice. He did not sit her down. He just looked at her across the black granite island of the Koreatown penthouse he had given her a key to 7 months ago, and said, "Forget me." Nia Ashford, who had cooked her way out of a Los Angeles apartment with one working burner, who had never once been told a thing twice in her 28 years, looked back at him for exactly 4 seconds. Then she picked up her keys from the bowl by the door. She did not slam it. She did not cry. She did not ask him what he meant. She walked out of Kim Tae-jun's life the way she had walked into it, with her chin level, her hands loose, and absolutely nothing to prove to anyone who was still standing in the room. That was on a Tuesday in January. By Wednesday morning, she had booked a one-way ticket to New Orleans. By Thursday, she was gone. Tae-jun stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of the penthouse and watched Wilshire Boulevard move the way it always moved. 50 stories below him. Indifferent. Enormous. Endless. He had held this city the way careful men hold everything they intend to keep. At distance. With precision. He had never lost sleep over an operational decision. He had made harder calls than this before 6 a.m. and never looked at them twice. But that was before Nia. That was before he understood what it meant to watch someone leave a room and feel the room go with her. He told himself he had made the correct call. His uncle Junho had been clear. The kind of clear that comes with consequences bolted on. The kind that lands like a court order rather than a conversation. Tae-jun had listened. He had agreed. He had gone home and looked at the woman who had never once asked him what he could do for her, and he had said the 2 words that would end it the way a lock ends a room. Forget me. He had not expected the lock to feel like this. Min found him still at the window at midnight. Same clothes. Same city, still moving. Min, who had worked beside Tae-jun for 7 years and knew the difference between his silences, said nothing. He set a bottle of water on the console. He stood by the door. He waited. After a long time, Tae-jun said, "She's gone." "I know." "Good." Neither of them believed it. 9 months later, Tae-jun is sitting in a private room at a restaurant in Century City when his second phone buzzes. Not the main line. The other one. The one only Min has. He picks it up. 4 words on the screen. "I found where she is." He sets the phone down on the linen. He looks at the 2 men across from him, still talking. Shipping lanes out of Long Beach. A name that needs resolving before Friday. Their voices continue in the room the way voices continue when the person listening has already left. He picks the phone back up. He types 1 word. "Where?" And just like that, 9 months of telling himself he was fine collapses like scaffolding that was never properly bolted to the wall. He puts the phone in his jacket pocket. He turns back to the men at the table. He finishes the meeting. He does not rush. He shakes their hands at the door. He walks out into the underground garage and gets into the car and closes the door behind him. He does not start the engine for 11 minutes. Then he calls Min. Tomorrow morning. Min does not ask what he means. Min never asks. To understand why he said it, you have to understand what she was. Not to the city. Not to the food press. Not to the guests who queued outside her cart on Fairfax in 90-degree heat for the privilege of a $5 sandwich made the way she made it. With butter she cultured herself. With pickles she had brined for 11 days. To him, Nia Ashford had spent 5 years turning a converted taco cart into the most talked-about lunch counter in Los Angeles County. She was the kind of cook who could walk into a kitchen with bad refrigeration and worse ventilation, look at 3 ingredients on a stainless steel table, and see exactly what they wanted to be together. Her sous chefs called her a genius. Her investor called her stubborn. Her best friend Toy, who had known her since a chemistry class at Xavier University in Louisiana, called her the most patient, impatient person she had ever met. Nia called herself prepared. She did not believe in luck. She believed in mise en place. Everything in its place before service. And in the specific kind of patience that lets a stock reduce for 11 hours because 11 hours is what it takes. She had grown up in Baldwin Hills in a house where her mother's law books had lined 3 walls of the living room, and she had learned early that the world would not hand her anything her mother had not already earned twice. Her mother had been killed on a Tuesday morning 15 years ago on the corner of La Brea and Adams by a driver who had been going too fast and left the scene before the paramedics arrived. The driver was never found. Nia had been 13. The case had been closed as vehicular manslaughter within a month. She had never quite believed it. She did not talk about it. She had learned by 15 that some things you carry into the kitchen with you and cook next to, and you do not put them down because there is nowhere to put them down. She was not supposed to meet Tae-jun. She was not supposed to be catering a rooftop private event at the Peninsula in Beverly Hills on a Wednesday in April. She had said yes because the private events coordinator had offered her 3 times her usual rate, and because Toy had once told her that saying yes to strange money was how a career quietly became a career. She had worn her chef's coat with her name embroidered on the pocket in cursive, the one Toy had given her the day the food cart opened, and she had been shucking oysters at a raw bar station and thinking about the temperature of the mignonette when someone stopped in front of the station. He did not introduce himself. He looked down at the tray. He looked back up at her. The mignonette is too cold. Nia looked at him. Tall. Korean. Late 20s. Charcoal suit. No tie. Top button open. Dark ink visible at his collarbone where the fabric moved. Hands loose at his sides. The kind of face that had learned to hold still very early and had never quite stopped. There was no scene. No lightning strike. No moment where the music swelled and everything became clear. It was slower than that. Quieter. The way a stock builds over 11 hours. You do not notice it happening. You just know at some point that the flavor has changed and you cannot remember the water it started as. Tae-jun started showing up in places he had no reason to be. The oyster bar at Providence on a Tuesday at 10 p.m., alone, drinking sparkling water, in a corner booth from which he could see the pass. He watched Nia have a 40-minute conversation with a chef friend about koji rice at the bar and left before she saw him. The Studio City Farmers Market on a Sunday morning at 8, standing 3 stalls away from the heirloom tomato vendor she used, pretending to look at eggs. The 3rd time she caught him, she stopped pretending it was coincidence. She walked up to him at the entrance to the Grand Central Market on a Thursday at 11 a.m. She was holding a paper cup of coffee. He was holding nothing. You're following me. Not angry. Just accurate. I'm in the neighborhood. You live in Koreatown. It's Los Angeles. Everything is in the neighborhood. She almost smiled. She did not let herself. Not yet. She did sit down at the bar of the tostada stand with him, though, and she did let him buy her a second coffee, and she did answer, in the specific dry way she answered strangers who had earned 3 coffees worth of her time. Every question he asked her about how she had gotten to where she was. She did not ask him anything back. He noticed. Over the next 4 months, they built something neither of them had words for. She learned he ran his family's operations out of a floor of an office building in Koreatown that was registered to a holding company he did not sit on the paperwork of. That he had memorized the floor plan of every building he had ever been inside. That he had a younger sister who lived in Seoul, who he called every Sunday, who was the only person alive he could not lie to about anything. That his father had died when Tae-jun was 15, and his uncle had raised him, and there was a specific look he got when he mentioned his uncle that she cataloged without commenting on. He learned she could taste the difference between 2 farms of the same variety of tomato. That she kept a journal she had never let anyone read. That she had rebuilt her business twice. Once after a supplier violation from a farm that had almost closed her. Once after her original investor pulled out in month 3 of the build-out. That when something mattered to her, she went quiet instead of loud, which was the opposite of every person he had ever grown up around. He learned she was the first person in his adult life who had not once asked him what he could do for her. That alone was worth more than he knew how to hold. They were careful. He never brought her near his work. She never asked him a question she could feel him not being ready to answer. She never asked about the tattoos. He never asked about her mother. On a Tuesday in July, he watched her plate a family meal for her kitchen staff. 22 people, 30 minutes, entirely from scratch. And something in his chest did a thing he did not have vocabulary for, and would not have used the vocabulary for if he had. He gave her a key to the penthouse in August. She did not use it the first 3 weeks. He noticed. He did not say anything. The fourth week, she came over on a Friday night after service. She was still in her whites. She was carrying a paper bag with 2 containers of the sea base she knew he liked. She let herself in with the key. She set the food on the counter. She said, "I'm too tired to talk," and she took off her clogs and she sat down on his couch, and she was asleep in 11 minutes. He sat across from her in an armchair and watched her sleep for 2 hours. He did not touch his phone. He did not turn on a light. He was 29 years old. He had been running one of the largest Korean-American operations on the West Coast for 3 of those years. He had ordered men to do things he did not talk about even with men. He had watched his uncle become the kind of man his uncle had become, and he had understood, very young, that survival in this world was a specific kind of arithmetic and love was not a variable in the equation. He watched Nia Ashford sleep on his couch and understood that he had been doing the arithmetic wrong. It was not perfect. It was real. And in Taejun's world, real was the rarest thing there was. What neither of them knew, what he would not know until the following Tuesday, and she would not know until 9 months after that, was that Uncle Junho had been watching the whole thing. He had a different style than most men in his position. He asked no questions. He waited. He counted months. He noted the key. He noted the family meal. He noted the sea-based containers. And when the moment came in September that his nephew needed to be reminded that this world had no room in it for the woman on the couch, Junho was ready. He had been ready for 4 months. The federal indictment came down on a Tuesday afternoon in September in a parking garage in Century City. Taejun was walking to his car from a meeting with the accountants when the call from his attorney came. He answered it. He listened. He did not stop walking. He got into the driver's seat. He closed the door. He said, "How much time?" And his attorney said, "We don't know yet. We know it's Rico. We know it's coming. We know there's a witness. We don't know who." Taejun sat in the driver's seat of his car in the underground garage of a building on Avenue of the Stars for 11 minutes. Then he called Min. Min arrived at the penthouse at 7 that evening. He did not sit down. Taejun told him what he knew. Min took 90 seconds to think. Then he said, "How much do we tell her?" Taejun did not answer immediately. The apartment was quiet. Wilshire moved beneath them. Nia's key was on the counter next to a container of fig jam she had left there the previous Sunday. Taejun looked at the jar. "Nothing," he said. "Not yet." Min nodded. He did not push. He never pushed. Uncle Junho arrived at the penthouse the following night. He did not call ahead. He never called ahead. Taejun opened the door for him at 9:15 and Junho walked past him without a greeting and sat down on the couch. The couch Nia had slept on in July, and said, "So." Taejun sat across from him. Junho was 59 years old. He had been running the family business since Taejun's father died, and had handed the day-to-day to his nephew 3 years ago with the same slow deliberation he had done everything with his entire life. He wore a black turtleneck. He drank from a glass of water Taejun had not offered him, and he had gotten for himself. His hands were folded on his knee. "You have thought about it." It was not a question. "Yes." And Taejun did not answer. Junho set the glass on the coffee table. "There are 2 ways this ends," he said. "You fight it. You go to trial. You are convicted, and you serve 12 to 20. Or you fight it. You go to trial. You win, and you come home 9 to 14 months from now to a life you have to rebuild from the paperwork out." "I know. You have a woman." Taejun did not move. "I have watched her for 4 months, Junho said. "She is a good woman. She is not the problem. The problem is that in either of the 2 futures I just described, she is the softest surface on you. If you are convicted, they will use her to get to whatever assets we do not move fast enough. If you are acquitted, they will still know she existed, and someone will remember her name. She is not equipped for the world she has been walking into, and she does not know it, because you have been very careful." "I have been careful." Careful is not enough anymore. The room was very quiet. Taejun looked at the fig jam on the counter. "What do you want me to do?" "End it. Not clean. Cold. So she does not wait. So she does not call. So she does not build her life around a door she is holding open for a man who might not be walking back through it. If you love her, you make sure she can go on without you. That is what love is in this family. It is not what love is in the movies. Junho stood. At the door he turned. Do not say leave. Leave is a word she will hear as an argument. Say the thing she will hear as an ending. She is not stupid. She will understand it faster than you want her to. Then he left. Taejun sat on the couch for 2 hours without moving. He ran the calculation the way his uncle had taught him to run every calculation. Remove the emotion. Identify the variables. Assess the cost of each outcome. He was very good at this. He had been doing it since he was 17, and it had kept him alive in rooms where most men did not survive their first mistake. The problem was that the calculation kept coming out wrong. Every time he ran it, the number on Nia's side was higher than it should have been, higher than a liability, higher than a variable, higher than any category his uncle's arithmetic had a slot for. But Junho was right about the door. Taejun had seen women wait. He had seen what waiting cost them. He had watched a woman in Koreatown named Sun Young wait 11 years for a man who came home to her at 43 with nothing left of himself to give her. And he had watched Sun Young die of something the doctors called cancer, and everyone in the family had called the 11 years. He would not do that to Nia. He picked up his phone. He called her. He asked her to come over. She came. She was wearing black jeans and the cream sweater. She had come straight from a menu meeting. Her hair was up. She let herself in with the key. She set a paper bag with 2 containers on the counter, the C base again, because she had been thinking about it in the car on the way over. He was at the window. She said his name. He turned. She read his face in the first quarter second and set the bag down and did not take off her shoes. He looked at her for a long moment. He looked at her the way a man looks at a room he is about to leave for the last time. He memorized the light on her cheekbone. He memorized the shape of her hands hanging loose at her sides. He memorized the specific way she had learned to stand very still when she was trying to understand what was in front of her. Then he said it. Forget me. She did not ask him what he meant. She was a woman who understood precision in stock and in structure and in people. She had heard exactly what the word contained. Not go for the evening. Not I need space. Forget. As in erase. As in unbuild. As in do not carry me forward with you into any room I have not already been in with you. The weight of it was architectural. Final. The kind of word that does not leave room for negotiation because the person saying it has already done all of the negotiating alone, without you, and handed you the result for you to hold. She gave him 4 seconds to take it back. He did not. She picked up her keys from the bowl by the door. She walked to the door. She did not turn around. Not because she was not dying to. Because she had promised herself a long time ago that she would never let a room see her break. Not a room. Not a city. Not a man who had just looked at her like she was a variable he had solved. The drive to her apartment in Silver Lake took 22 minutes. She sat in the car outside for 8 of them. Then she went in. She turned on the pendant lamp in the kitchen. She sat at the counter. She opened her laptop. She booked a one-way to Louis Armstrong International Airport in New Orleans, direct, on a 7:42 a.m. flight the following morning. She did not call Toy that night. She did not call anyone. She packed her apartment in 3 hours with the focused efficiency of a woman who had had to move fast before and knew that thinking too much slowed you down. She left her key to the Koreatown penthouse on the counter of her own apartment. She had paid for that copy herself. She left it because keeping it would have meant she was still holding something open, and she was done holding things open. The flight was at 7:42. She slept for an hour on the plane. When it landed in New Orleans at 4 in the afternoon, Toy was waiting at arrivals with a paper bag of beignets and a coffee and the specific expression of a woman who knows everything without being told anything. Toy took one look at her face and said nothing. She handed over the coffee. She took the smaller of the 2 suitcases. She walked. That was what Toy had always been. Not words. Presence. They drove to Toy's shotgun house in the Bywater in silence. Nia drank the coffee. She watched the familiar low light of a New Orleans September pass outside the window. The oak trees. The power lines. The specific gold the sun took in this city that it took in no other one. She had gone to college here. She had learned to cook here. She had walked out of a chemistry lab here on a Tuesday afternoon 11 years ago and decided, in the specific way she decided everything, that she was going to become a chef instead of a doctor. She was arriving somewhere she had left a long time ago, which was exactly what she was doing. She set up her notebook on Toy's kitchen table that afternoon. She called her sous chef in LA and told him she was relocating and that the food cart operation would go on without her under his management, at a rate she named that was fair and that he did not argue with. She called her landlord and gave notice. She called her mother's old law partner, who was 73 now and had never stopped taking her calls, and asked her one question about how to move a corporation across state lines without leaving paperwork in the old state that could be used against her. The old law partner said, "Are you all right, Nia?" Nia said, "I will be." The old law partner said, "That is not the same thing," and helped her anyway. She found the space on Magazine Street in the Garden District in the third week of October. A small storefront, 1,400 square feet, height and ceilings, a working brick hearth in the back that the previous tenant had used for pizza and that she was going to use for smoke. A good north window that would give her 3 hours of clean prep light for 8 months of the year. The bones were right. She had learned a long time ago to work with what a room gave you, and to leave alone what the room already had. She built the space out herself over 6 weeks, the way she always built spaces, starting with the flow, then the equipment, then the plates. She named the restaurant Ashford. Not her name, her mother's. The doors opened on a Friday in December. Toy was at the door. Toy's cousin was on the bar. Nia was in the kitchen. She served 42 covers on the first night. She served 57 on the second. By the third week, she was turning tables twice on Fridays and Saturdays. The Times Review ran in February. It was 3 columns long, and it used the word unforgettable twice. Her booking window went from 3 days to 6 weeks. She did not check her phone for anything but work. She did not talk about Los Angeles. She did not talk about the penthouse or the key or the fig jam or the sea base or the specific way Taejun had once, in July, watched her sleep on a couch for 2 hours without moving. Toy came by every Tuesday with a bottle of wine and the particular company that did not require Nia to be okay. Toy had stopped asking about LA in mid-November, which was the right call, because Nia had no answer that felt like the truth, and she was not going to give Toy anything less. They talked about the restaurant. They talked about a brownstone on Esplanade that Nia was thinking about buying if a second location ever became a real question. They talked about everything except the thing Nia thought about in the hour before she fell asleep, which was the specific quality of a silence she had once been allowed to sit inside, which had felt more like company than most conversation she had ever been in. On a Tuesday in March, over the second glass of a Beaujolais Toy had brought, Toy finally said the thing. "You know he was telling you the truth." Nia looked at her. "Not the truth about you," Toy said. "The truth about him. Forget me is what men say when they can't stand to be remembered. It isn't a request. It's a confession." Nia set her glass down. She did not answer. She did not need to. Toy did not push. That was Toy. Nia went to bed that night and lay in the dark of the second bedroom she had turned into her office and thought about the confession she had heard as a dismissal and had walked out of her room to honor. She was not going back. That was clear. But she also, for the first time in 6 months, understood. Taejun's 9 months were not a story. They were a docket. The indictment came down formally 3 weeks after she left. Discovery took 4 months. Depositions took 6 weeks. Motion to suppress the wiretap evidence took another 5. The witness was scheduled to appear the first week of August. On the Sunday before, Taejun's attorney called him at 9:14 at night and said, "The witness recanted this afternoon. Written statement. He is refusing to testify." Taejun did not ask why. Men had done what men did. The prosecution moved to compel. The judge held a hearing. The witness invoked. The prosecution's second strongest piece of evidence, the wiretap, was suppressed on the motion the previous month. What was left was thin. The case collapsed on a Thursday in October at 3:11 in the afternoon. Tae-jun walked out of the federal courthouse on North Spring Street at 4:47. He did not go home. He got in Min's car. He said, "Find her." Min looked at him in the rearview mirror. "How long can I have?" "As long as it takes. But start today." Min started that day. It took Min 92 days. He did not use technology. Nia had not made herself hard to find on paper. She had opened a business in her name. She had a restaurant reviewed by the Times. She had a New Orleans business license and a New Orleans address for a corporation registered to a new EIN. Min could have found her in 11 minutes. He took 92 days on purpose. He wanted to be sure. He watched the restaurant from the outside for 2 weeks in December. He watched Nia move through her service. He watched her plate. He watched her stand at the pass with her arms crossed at 9 p.m. on a Thursday and talk to a line cook about a sauce, and he saw what he needed to see, which was that she had built something. Not something to survive on. Something to live in. Something with load-bearing walls she had put in herself. Min flew back to Los Angeles in the second week of January. He walked into Tae-jun's office. He set a folder on the desk. Inside, a New Orleans address, a business name, and a photograph taken from the sidewalk outside the restaurant at 8:42 on a Wednesday night. A lit window. A woman visible through it at the pass, her hands moving over a plate. A pendant lamp behind her giving her a specific gold that Min had known would be the frame Tae-jun needed to see. Tae-jun looked at the photograph for a long time. He did not ask Min how he had found her. Min found everything. He closed the folder. He opened it again 40 minutes later. He sat in his office until the light in the window turned from afternoon to evening, and he accepted something he had been refusing to accept for 9 months. That correct and right were not the same word. That he had confused them, and that the cost of the confusion was sitting at a pass in New Orleans and did not know that he was thinking about her. He walked into Ashford on a Sunday in late January at 8:04 in the evening. He did not have a reservation. He had known he would not need one. Sunday was the seat at the bar night, walk-in only, for seats total, first come first served. He had been outside since 7:40. He wore a charcoal coat over a black turtleneck. No tie. His hair was slightly damp from the mist that had come in off the river an hour before. He sat down at the corner seat at the bar. He ordered a sparkling water. He did not open a menu. Nia was at the pass. She saw him from the pass. She finished the plate she was on. She sent the runner. She wiped her hands on the side towel at her hip. She said one word to her Sue. She came out from behind the pass and around the corner of the open kitchen and up the 2 steps to the bar level. She did not sit down next to him. She stood on the other side of the bar. Between them, the marble bar top. A glass of water. Her hands, resting flat on the marble. Her chef's coat with her name embroidered on the pocket in the same cursive from 5 years ago. He looked up at her. She looked down at him. "You drove?" "I flew." "From LA?" "Yes." "It's January. It's 9 months." "I know." The restaurant hummed around them. Voices at tables. A cork coming out at station 4. The specific sound of a shaker. Nia's hands did not move. Why? Just that. He looked at her. He had prepared for this. He had prepared for it in the car from the airport, in the room at the hotel, on the sidewalk outside for 24 minutes. "My uncle came to me," he said. "I figured." He stopped. "I know who your uncle is," Nia said. "I did not ask because I did not want to make things harder for you. But I paid attention. I know what world you were in. I know what conversation that would have been. What I did not know, what I still do not know, is why you believed him instead of me." She paused. She looked at his hands, then at his face. "I have never once asked you for anything," she said. "I did not ask you what you did. I did not ask you what the tattoos were. I did not ask you where the money came from. I did not ask what your uncle was to you. I did not ask because I was waiting for you to tell me, on the day you decided you were ready, and I would have waited as long as it took, because that is the kind of woman I am. Instead of telling me on that day, you told me to forget you." She stopped. Forget me is what men say when they can't stand to be remembered. It isn't a request. It's a confession. What were you confessing, Tae-jun? The theme line landed. The bar around them did not stop. He did. He looked at her for a long time. Then he said the honest thing. I did not want you waiting. She waited. I was going to trial. I did not know if I was coming home. I could not stand the thought of you sitting in an apartment, holding a key I gave you, and waiting for a man who might not walk back through the door. I have seen what waiting does. I have watched it do it. I decided I would rather be the man who cut you loose cleanly than the man who let you spend a year of your life on a door that might never open. I told myself it was love. I told myself it was the only clean version of love available in the world I live in. I was wrong. She did not answer immediately. About which part? About which one of us I was protecting? The room absorbed that. Nia looked at him. She was looking at him the way she looked at a plate before it left the pass, trying to see what it actually was beneath what it was presenting. That is the most honest thing you have ever said to me. I know. I should have said it in September. She did not answer immediately. Outside, a streetcar bell moved down Magazine Street. The lamp behind her at the pass hummed. The tin ceiling caught the light the way good bones always catch the light. Just enough to remind you they are there. There's something else, she said. He waited. There has to be. You flew to New Orleans in January to sit at my bar and take that. There is something else. He looked at her. Yes. She waited. Your mother. 15 years ago. La Brea and Adams. She went very still. I did not know until I started running her name 3 months ago, he said. I was not looking for it. I was looking for you. The name came up in a file I should not have had access to. It was not vehicular manslaughter. She had a case pending against a client of a firm that had a relationship with a family we do not do business with anymore. I have the file. I did not come here to trade it. You have the right to know it, and I am the one who could find it out. It is yours whether you want to see me again after tonight or not. Nia did not move. She looked past him at the front window of her restaurant. She had built the front window herself. She had chosen the glass. She had chosen the light that lit it from the inside at night. She had walked past it 1,100 times in the last year and never once been surprised by it. She looked back at Taejun. I'm not moving to Los Angeles. I know. And I am not closing this restaurant. I know. And I need you to talk to me. Not solve things in private and hand me the result. If something is coming, I need to know it is coming. I am not afraid of complicated. I have rebuilt twice from nothing. I can handle complicated. What I cannot handle is being handled. I know you can. The way he said it. Not reassurance. Acknowledgement. It landed differently than any reassurance would have. She stood at the bar in her own restaurant with her hands flat on the marble she had picked out herself, and she looked at the man who had once told her to forget him and had spent 9 months learning what he had actually been asking for. Service ends at 11. There is a place 2 blocks over. The owner is a client. Good bourbon. You'll notice. He almost smiled. Just slightly. Just enough. I'll wait outside. You'll wait at the bar. I'm not hiding you from my staff. She turned. She walked back down the 2 steps and around the corner of the open kitchen and up to the pass. She picked up the ticket for table 9. She read it. She started the next plate. At 11:04, she came out of the back in her coat. He was still at the bar. He had not moved. She walked past him and out onto Magazine Street, and he fell into step beside her. The night was cool. The streetcar bells were 4 blocks away. Down at the corner, a boy in a red hoodie was playing a trumpet for tips. Forget me, Nia said quietly, mostly to herself, is what men say when they can't stand to be remembered. He looked at her. It's a confession. I know. They walked. Not touching. Not performing anything. Just 2 people moving through a city together, starting something that had already been through the hardest part and was still standing. The cold came up from the river. She turned her collar up. He fell into step beside her. And New Orleans, which has seen everything and is impressed by none of it, moved around them the way it always moves. Slow, certain, completely unbothered. But some things do not need a city to witness them. Some things just need 2 people who finally stop pretending that correct and right are the same word, walking toward a bar with good bourbon, ready for the first time to say the true thing instead of the safe one. If this one reached you, do me a favor. Hit subscribe. Turn on your notifications. Because the next one is already ready. And in the comments, Tell me the moment that got you. Was it the 2 words in the penthouse? Was it toy at the airport with the beignet and no questions? Was it the pendant lamp behind Nia at the pass on a Sunday at 8:04? And tell me this. Where do we go next? Do we go to Toy? Because she has been holding her own story since college, and no one has ever thought to ask her the question, and she has been showing up for other people for a long time now, and there is a reason. Or do we go back to Uncle Junho? Because the man who told Taejun to cut her loose is watching the reunion from a distance we cannot see, and he is not done. You pick. I will be here.